How the bloody hell are you? Welcome back to another episode of Roam Life. Today, what I'm going to be doing is running through the process of how I achieve such a nice texture with Raptor bedliner. Now, as you guys know, we have our budget built Triton that we are sticking to a $2,000 budget to turn this thing into the best thing that we can actually turn it into. Now, we do have an aluminium tray and an aluminium bull bar on it, so I want to go through the process of blacking them out with Raptor, how you can make it look a lot better than shooting it out of the Raptor paint gun that they provide. So what I got to do is bring the Triton into the garage mahal. We need to start talking about prep. As you can see, we have the Triton pulled in. Now, for those of you guys who are new viewers, this is our Mitsubishi Triton budget build. We are only spending $2,000 to try and transform this thing from trash to bloody treasure. Now, this is the aluminium bull bar that I have sort of cut up with a grinder. Now, it used to have 3 main hoops and I just cut them off. Now, as much as I like this shiny little chrome bull bar, what we are doing is blacking it out with the Raptor. Now, this here is a tray that we bought off Facebook Marketplace. You can see it's just all sorts of different colors, so this definitely needs to be black. Now, one thing that I've had done to the Triton is we got it tinted. So I have been driving this thing for about 7 or 8 months now without tint, which for me is super painful. I hate having cars without tint because it's just like driving around in a bloody fishbowl and everyone's looking at you thinking, why are you singing Mariah Carey at the top of your lungs? Now, Diesel is actually right here. He's sitting in there and you can barely see him, so definitely dark enough. So we got 20% all round. I also got the tint strip up the top, and it only costs $250 for the whole car. So we do need to update the budget real quick. So we've got a budget of $2,000 and we're actually looking pretty solid at the moment, guys, but I've got some good news. I did sell the old aluminium tray that was on it for $500, making our new aluminium tray only costing $100 bloody dollars. Can you believe it? What I need to add real quick is the fact that our tint cost $250. Now, while we're at it, right here we have a 4-litre kit of Raptor and it's already mixed with black. Now, that was $299, so I'm just going to write Raptor Paint is $300 pretty much. Now, I've already got some edge primer, but you do actually need this if you are painting, so I am going to add that to the list and I'm only going to charge $50 for it. So what we are painting today is aluminium. Now, aluminium is probably one of the hardest things to paint. It's definitely harder than steel. And it's only because painting is in the prep work and aluminium's a little bit harder to prep. So you can see here, we've got a shiny tray. Now, rule of thumb with anything shiny when you're painting it is you want it to be a matte finish. You're basically just taking the shine out of it and getting a few scratches in there, and that's gonna give the paint something to grip onto. Now, the other thing is you need it to be really clean, so wax and grease remover right over the top. Now, aluminium does have to be primed as well before you put your top coat over, which in our case is Raptor. And the Raptor just won't stick to aluminium, so you definitely need to prime it. Now I'm going to get my electric sander out and I'm going to probably put about a 120 on there, and we're just going to sand everywhere that we are going to paint. What I'll do is a little bit of sanding and then I'll show you guys what I'm sort of talking about. Alright, so now that we've got everything stripped off, we've got the mud flaps, all the lights off the back, it is time to sand. Now, I've already done just this little bit here, just so I can show you guys that basically that is what we are trying to achieve. And that is what we are coming from. This is going to be the worst part, is the prep work, but the prep needs to be there so the paint is actually looking good after. So what I'm going to do is sand the whole tray down. So it's time to get to it, guys. Let's start the time lapse and get bloody sanded. As you can see, all nice and sanded up. You can see the scratch marks in there. That is exactly what we want. So the next step is to actually mask the cab of the car up, because obviously we don't want to paint any black Raptor onto our cab. Now, I did take the bull bar off just to make it easier to paint, and I couldn't really get to most places. So basically we need to mask the wheels up, because we are going to be painting across here and you don't really want anything on your wheels. Now, the other thing we want to do is mask up over the cab like that with a plastic drop sheet. And I've just got these like disposable plastic drop sheets here. They're quite large. You can see 2.6 by 3.6. So you can get a lot covered with a few of those. I do also recommend not aiming the paint gun towards anything expensive, i.e. the toolbox here. I don't want to be painting so that stuff is just going all over the toolbox. The way I'm shooting the Raptor, it is pretty good. Also, primer is not too bad as well. But if you are painting 2K like car paint, it goes everywhere, and you definitely sort of need to mask everything up. Looking pretty good. That definitely took a few hours to get that all sanded up, but it's definitely going to pay off in the long run. Another thing is all the dust on the ground, we're going to blow that out of the shed. Last thing you want is dust swirling around with the air compressor going as you're painting. It'll be landing back in the wet paint. I do also have a tarp that I will be putting on the floor as well, so that is just something to protect my floor a little bit, but for the most part, I don't really care. I just want it painted. So time to mask this up, and then we can start laying some primer. I'm not going to get too carried away, but we are pretty well masked up. Now, I've got the tarp on the floor, the wheels covered up, and most of the cab covered up. Basically, what I do is I'll just walk around like I'm pretending to paint this thing. And obviously, if you paint here, you're going to paint here, but it's pretty hard to spray all the way around and hit like a front fender or something. So I don't go too crazy with masking, but if this was a very expensive car, you'd want to basically mask everything. Now on to the next step. It's time to wipe everything down. There's oil, there's residue, there's all sorts of crazy stuff sitting on this metal right now. We need to get it all off. So basically wax and grease remover the whole tray, all the bull bar, and just get it as clean as possible. So basically, before you even pick up a paint gun, what you want to do is walk around and pretend to paint the thing. And it sounds silly, but there's places that you're probably not going to be able to reach once something's wet. And there's also places that are just going to be awkward that you really should just paint first. So basically, I want to be able to paint the whole bar with the tray sides down. And also, I need to paint this strip here, which the tray sides actually fold up onto. And I also want to paint that headboard first. Then we'll lift the tray sides up. I'll have to be careful about what's going on in this corner here. And basically then we can spray all the sides. Now this paint gun that I've got is a Renegade from Total Tools, I think, or Trade Tools, one of them. You can see there, Renegade. These are only 50 bucks. The downside to this, it's only got one tip. It's a 2.0, which is actually the size of the hole at the front there. But for the most part, this thing is pretty well an all-round gun. With the Raptor, this gun works really well. With primer, this gun works really well. Wouldn't paint a bloody Ferrari with it, but for what we're doing, this is really good. With these paint guns, people think that you need to be a pro to use them. You do not. They are very simple to use. So all the adjustments can seem a little bit scary, but I run everything maxed out and it just works for me, and I just use hand speed to sort of control everything. Now basically with painting something with one of those guns, you're trying to be nice and even, come across and do a 50% overlap, come back, 50% overlap. So basically we'll paint here, we'll then move down, we'll paint here, we'll then move down, paint here, and we're trying to stay a 50% overlap. It's kind of hard to explain, but if you just watch the process, how I'm doing it, you'll pick it up pretty easy. It is actually pretty simple. So the next step is to use our etch primer here. Now this basically will just go straight into the gun. All right, so I've got the paint gun there full of primer. Now I set the air compressor to 40 PSI. 40 PSI is just about where you want to be. Now respirator's on my head, it's going to go on my mouth, and then we're going to start painting. But yeah, just watch how I'm sort of keeping the gun angle and how even I'm trying to be. And maybe you'll pick something up. But anyway, let's go. This is going to be absolutely awesome. I can't wait to see it done. So let's get into it. Let's start the are done with the bloody primer. How good does that look? Now, I did actually have enough to do the inside of the tray, and I'm thinking that I'm gonna have enough to do the inside of the tray with Raptor. I will be painting the inside last though, just in case I don't have enough. That would suck if we ran out. But as you can see, everything is primed up beautifully and it looks really, really good. Now this stuff is basically dry already. As soon as you finish spraying it, it's just about dry. So we can actually start laying some Raptor now. Now with painting Raptor, what I've found with the gun is less pressure coming out of the air compressor is more texture. So normally what I do is I keep the pressure about 40 and I spray it on nice and even. I then drop it to whatever pressure I want until it gets the texture that I need. So normally it's about 30 PSI, I start spraying it on and it gets a little bit blobby, and I normally leave it at that. One thing with edge primer, it does leave a little bit of dry beads over everything. So what you want to do is rub it down with a rag, and that'll just take just that beady surface off, get it nice and flat, and then you're pretty well right to spray your Raptor. All right, so moving on to the Raptor now, we have to add the hardener. Now that is normal in the kit. You pour that into there and then you shake it, but we are also using a thinner so we can spray it out of our gun instead of spraying it out of the Schutz gun. I'm gonna start a little bit less on my regulator here. I'll probably go down to about 30 PSI. So we pour the hardener in, 240 mils. To the line. And that's enough for 1 litre of Raptor. So I like to shake that a little bit first. So you can thin Raptor up to about 10%. So we are just going to fill this up. And I think that's going to be about 10%, which is 100 mil. Right to the top. That should be good to go. Once you've covered everything with paint on the first run, the second run is what I like to call the texture coat. So what I like to do is hold the gun a fair bit back from what I'm painting. I go nice and slow and keep it really even and consistent, and this forms a really nice look to the texture. It's basically all boiling down to this last coat, so take your time. Alright guys, we have finished with the Raptor. It's definitely getting late now. It took a long time, but honestly, I didn't go through nearly as much as I thought. I've actually got a full 1 litre bottle left, so that's really good. Now the texture turned out really good. I ended up at 30 PSI and just sprayed it out from a fair distance. I'm very happy with it, so let's take a look and see what you guys think. So it definitely turned out really good. I'm very happy with that. The bull bar's definitely looking a lot better than look when it was silver. So Jesse was over and he was having a play around, but we actually did manage to paint the inside of the tray too, which is really good. I didn't actually plan on doing that. I just sort of planned on putting a mat in there. It literally looks like a brand new tray. You cannot see one mark on it, which actually means that the prep work was really good because we sanded it enough to sort of hide all the imperfections. I did actually just quickly bolt the lights and the number plate back in, but nothing's actually wired up yet. So I'll do that probably tomorrow. It's actually crazy what paint can do to a car. It's just completely transformed the look of the Triton. Very stoked with the Raptor. Very stoked with the black. It looks absolutely sick. To be honest, I didn't mind the chrome bull bar, but the black definitely looks a hell of a lot better. Now, what is next on the Triton is we're probably going to do communications like a UHF. We might put a light bar on the front as well. I think that'll make it look really good. I do need to black out the chrome on the indicators there. I also need to tidy up some rust just around the window. So there definitely is still a fair bit to do on it, but we still do have $800 bloody to play with. So if you guys do have any suggestions on mods that are going to be 800 or under, definitely drop them in the comments because I'm sort of struggling to think about what to do next. But yeah, I think a light bar, UHF, we might get some seat covers, possibly a new steering wheel as well because that one's very crusty. And I think she'll be looking pretty good. All right, that is actually going to be it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed just a little bit more of an insight into how I actually spray this Raptor. Now, it definitely is a little bit of a daunting task, but I think that a lot of you guys can achieve very similar results to this. This has only taken about 7 hours to do, and obviously I'm just in the shed by myself. So if you do have a tray or a bull bar that needs painting, definitely recommend giving this a crack because it's very easy and yeah, it looks very good and it can transform the look of a vehicle just like we've done here, and I'm very happy with it. So thanks for watching. We'll see you guys on another episode. We might be doing the Triton next, maybe another one on the Patrol. Actually, let me know down in the comments what you'd rather see, Triton or the Patrol, and we'll go from there, eh? But for now, I'm going inside. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys on the next episode. Goodbye.